Welcome back, you guys. This is the Art School Graduate. Today, my guest is a designer, educator, and founder of Dynamo Design Group, whose work sits in the intersection of design, culture, and community. His career bridges professional design practices and education, focusing on empowering the next generation of creatives and using design as a tool to impact. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest is Allan Manzano. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, Justin. Thanks for having me, big dog. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. You guys, if we would have recorded when we first got on, you would have heard our whole conversation, man. We were talking hip hop,
Are you
talking
recording?
about kids. Nah, man, we weren't, because that tape, the people got to pay for that one. That's the extra on the back end they got to get later. But you guys, so let me share about this gentleman. I simply was doing my research, looking for designers and creatives to have conversations with. After looking into his profile through LinkedIn, going through his company's website and what they do, I was just like, man, I gotta reach out to this dude. Super dope. And him being a professor, me being a teacher and a professor, I feel like we vibe on that same playing field. So you guys, this is my man, Allan. Allan, what's up, man? How you feeling?
I'm well, Justin. Happy Friday. Yeah, when you reached out, I was really stoked. At first, I was like, who's hitting me up about some podcast? And I thought it's usually not a real thing, but your emails are very inviting and we connected right off the bat. And I'm hoping to carry that forward here.
Yes, yes, sir, we will. So let's talk about the origin for you. So many designers talk about what they do, right? But not always why they do it. So when you think about the arc of your career, what deeper question about the world do you think your work is trying to answer? Like, what are you trying to get people to see or the conversations you want them to have?
Really, in a high levels, proposing new questions of how we can be better. I'm a trained graphic designer. I call myself an educator first. That so happens to be a designer, and I feel just from personal experiences and how I've worked the corporate world, but also now having my own firm. It's more about why am I doing this, and that's a great question. It's a loaded question. I think as I advance in my career and professionally, personally, it's having kids, that lens of design has changed. But ultimately, why I'm doing is to really show that design has more legs than just visual aesthetics. It's more about connecting at the human level. I'm here at the local level where we're at in San Diego's South Bay area, utilizing art, design, conversations to hopefully spark new ideas and take those ideas and hopefully produce them and
Hmm,
see what and why we can, work collectively
right.
together.
So were you always a designer at heart, or was it something you fell into, you stumbled upon? How did that come for you?
I was actually civil engineering at San Diego State. I wanted to design bridges. I was very fascinated and still am with just how things connect. I guess there's a
Yeah.
metaphor there, but I was horrible at math. And back in the days, we carried these big Texas Instrument calculators.
Yeah.
And at that point, design was, transitioning to the computer. I was always good at drawing and just sketching ideas. And then visual communications, commercial art was the term, making logos and flyers for all kinds of events back in the 90s. But it wasn't until, shoot, maybe grad school 2005, I was like, okay, I'm a designer. I'm applying what I've learned the language, and now I just got to go out there and hustle.
So what was that moment you would say in your life when it shifted from being like design shifted from like being a skill to becoming something more of a responsibility? Because I heard how it shifted from you being a civil engineer to a designer. So now that you've been in this space, like what's that moment that you're like, you know what, I need to do more with this superpower?
Well, honestly, I would have to say it started when I went to grad school. I had to put in a submission letter and to get into grad school. So I did that, and I recall writing that one day I'll open a design firm in my backyard, which is San Diego South Bay. And 25 years later, I was able to. I knew I was going to work the commercial space. I knew how to make money, and at that age, you just wanted to win awards, be in communication
Yeah.
arts magazines, and have your name
Yeah.
validate you made it. But that was all a facade. But it wasn't until I would say professionally, 2017, I had my second child. I was working a dead end job as a graphic designer, just doing nothing really worth
Exciting.
citing. and I just had a mental breakdown. I came home. I was working 50 miles away from my home, and I came home and just barked at my kids and my family. I'm like, "Yo, this is it. I can't do this anymore." I think that was a shift. My wife said, "Well, go into teaching and start your own thing." And I was like, Are you sure? Are you sure about this?" Because if you're gonna back me on it, I will." And I think it was around 2018 that shift actually came into fruition, and I applied myself more in that space of building communities.
So do you see yourself more as a designer who teaches or a teacher who designs?
That's a great question. I would say a teacher that designs. I've kind of shifted that underneath the underlying idea of education, because even with clients, Justin, we have to educate, right? We have to show them why we're selecting this color palette, choosing this typeface, the imagery, the mood. So education is the common thread between both spaces. So I always say I'm an educator first. That so happens to be a designer.
So how does that identity shape the way you approach both worlds, like being corporate and now being an educator? So how does that work for you?
It works hand in hand. I think one thing clients appreciate about working with Dynamo Design Group is that we're accessible, and we're going to take the time to really think together collectively on what the actual deliverable is going to be. When they come to us, sometimes they want a website, but why a website? Let's talk about this. Now, when it comes to the school environment, same thing. What's the concept behind your project and why? So I'm always taking that role of educating both the client, the student, in both spaces. So yeah, there's a lot of overlap, but ultimately we're designing, just at a different lens for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so let's talk about your heritage a little bit. So, being Filipino, how has your culture and background shaped the way you see creativity as a professor and in the corporate world?
That's a really good question. And I'll tell you honestly, like I'm going through this transition of understanding more about what it's like being Filipino American. I recently just took a trip to Philippines not too long ago in November of 2025 on a creative journey. We sponsored a typography event there. So it allowed me to kind of see what Filipino designers are doing. Okay, so there's a difference for me. I'm so happen to be Filipino American. So I get two lenses. So for me, that lens of being a Filipino designer almost made me feel lost,
Why is that?
because when I was there, they saw me as an American, whereas in my heart, I was like, no, I'm Filipino, I'm
Yeah.
just American made with Filipino parts. So it's just kind of, and I'm still through going through this transition of like, where do I fit within the design space being Filipino American? We grew up learning a lot of Eurocentric beliefs on typography, very Bauhausy, but in Philippines, it's very rooted in the culture, the leaves, the fences on the houses, the smell of the food. I'm like, wow, I never thought designing can be influenced like that. So to answer your question, Justin, it's I'm in this weird space of understanding more, but I am discovering that I can utilize both. So it kind of makes me a dual threat when it comes to being a designer.
So, since you're in this kind of space right now, this headspace, do you find yourself either leaning more into it or do you find yourself just pulling from it when you feel like the work needs that kind of twist or touch to it?
I would say I'm leaning into it. And the reason being because I've been doing it all my life. It just so happens that I'm understanding it now as an adult, as a mature adult with, at stake. I got the family responsibility, the career, the students. So I'm just leaning into it and embracing it, embracing it. Whereas, you know, I wasn't quite sure, which I still am, but I'm letting it happen. And naturally, it works. There's this thing that we have in the Filipino culture called Bayanihan, which means your community. We're always supporting each other. I'm really leaning into that cultural concept and trying to embrace it more and expose it more and tell clients, that's why I work like this because naturally it's how us Filipinos are. My dad is like this. He's always joyous and always helping. So ultimately, I'm just going to have to lean into it because it just happens naturally.
So are there any elements of your culture as like values, aesthetics that you kind of subconsciously or consciously are are influenced to like put up front, like put on the main stage? Does that ever happen to you?
Yes, all the time. I'm always, if needed or if expected, I'm always representing, you know. I'm
Yeah.
always letting them know, hey, we're a small team. We're minority owned. Whenever you put requests for proposals in, that's always a big talking point. But in terms of values, I think it just happens naturally. We have a small studio here, and anytime we're here, we're always welcoming. You know, we always have the time. We're always listening. We almost care too much with the clients. And clients, we've had moments where clients break down and cry because we're constantly asking questions. We're asking questions like, "How can we help you? What can we do better? And how we can we connect your pain points to this solution?" And it just comes with natural conversations, you know? I think they call it like human centered design
Hmm.
nowadays. I just call it conversations, you know, and asking the right
Yeah.
questions and connect that person.
So you had mentioned a little bit, like probably a few seconds ago, like the values, like the community, the resilience. Like, how do you show that in the classroom or with your team? You know, how do you implement that or weave that in? Because it seems like once you become a designer, you have a team, but usually when you leave the school realm, you kind of lose that team until you can get like a lot of people become freelancers before they can get put back together. So how do you help these students or these people you work with, like with the community and resilience?
With the school setting, obviously there's a curriculum that the school provides. I review it and I always change it. You know, I make it more in line to how I would speak. What does that mean? The dynamics of the class is more interactive. I have more one-on-ones with them. I allow them to struggle. I allow them to learn what falling forward means. I allow that versus, you know, you can't do this. You can't do X, Y, Z. So I'm very transparent. And I think that type of learning, just from my own experience and how I believe in how a dynamic group of people should work together is 110% applied all the time. And it's great because the students are less concerned about the grade. Does it make
Right.
sense? And they're
Yeah,
more
yeah.
concerned about the craft. I'm like, okay, cool. Now you're getting it. Don't worry about the evaluation. Let me do that. But if you're able to work with your colleagues, get up, have conversations, laugh, have fun with this, like have it organically develop, and then let me kind of structure it, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Same thing with the community. You know, I'm always active. I'm always trying to just pair people together, connect
Hmm.
where things align. So it's pretty much a universal trait that I think we all
Right.
have. We're just not leaning into it.
Yeah. 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 So, for Filipino designers that are coming up and who are maybe looking for role models in this creative industry, what advice would you want to give them about building their own creative path?
I would definitely tell these young Filipino designers, Filipino American designers, is to learn to work. I would say find your tribe, you know, find a group of people that have the same work ethic as you are, that you have, and that they may not know, but you have to seek that. A lot of Filipino Americans aren't creative, but we're always steered to pursue careers that have more validation, I guess, whether it's engineering, the medical field. So creatives are always not the first career path a lot of Filipino kids are encouraged to do. So I tell these young designers, you know what? Entrepreneurship, you know, you have the skill set, you have the Bayanihan spirit to get out there, but find your tribe, find a mentor, find people that resonate. And I think there's a shift, Justin. A lot of young designers and their parents are embracing the creative mindset and hopefully pursuing it. So definitely
Yeah.
find
Yeah, like, I remember I was talking with another colleague of mine. I was like, "You know what's crazy when you think about it? When I started taking graphic design, it was just graphic design. It wasn't like environmental design. Like it might be my own ignorance, but for me, it was literally just straight graphics. It wasn't like it was like graphics, and now you have environmental design and industrial design. Like all these little sub things that are starting to slowly fall underneath it. And I just was like, I wonder how different the world would look if the generation before me, maybe your generation, had these kind of subheadings of like environmental design and different things like that. I feel like it kind of slowly built up. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I see how that is happening. I said, and I think now, um, programs like at San Diego State, they're calling it integrated design now, not
Yes. Yes.
not graphic design,
Yeah.
you know? So I think it's all timing, and I think people like yourself and me, we are the ones that did the graphic design.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know just the fundamentals of a pica, a pixel, a Bezier curve. I think we were in that era to be in this position now,
Hmm.
right? So we've amplified what design is. Now we got to stick it to the kids. Like, yes, but the fundamentals is graphic design.
Hmm.
It just happens to translate to social media, experiential design, interior design.
Yeah.
Respect the grid, kids.
Percent. Well,
Yeah.
most of my students, we don't get on the computer until like maybe the third, maybe fourth week of school because I'm like, no, you gotta get you a gridded notebook and we're gonna draw it out. So I'm gonna show you how to do it. Like that's how I was taught. That's the way I learned it. Before I even touched the computer, it was like, okay, what are these ideas? Let's start brainstorming. Let's start breaking this down. And sometimes they kind of look at me like, we're 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, we haven't touched the computer yet. What are we doing? I was like,
What's the response though? Did they appreciate that, or do you appreciate more? Like, what's your
they appreciate it more because I'm the kind of teacher that experiments. So sometimes I'm like, okay, let me just teach them the basics. Let me teach them the basics. But then I figured out through my own like trial and error was just like by teaching them the basics, they kind of want to just skip the drawing and note taking, the tactile part of it, the pen to paper, and go right to the computer and be like, give me something. And it's like, it don't work like that. It's like you have to come up with these concepts and sit and talk and write down these ideas. Okay, if it's bad, leave it alone. Go outside, go for a walk, go have something to eat, go to a museum, come back. Oh my God, I got a brand new idea. What about this? Or take a picture of something that's a reference. It's like getting them to do all that. And then when they come to use the tools, they're kind of like, this makes sense. I
right?
get it. And they
Yeah,
spend less time, I would say, I call it the first step. They spend less time in the first step, which is like the research and the practice, the understanding the practice. They spend, forgive me, I misspoke. They spend more time in that area, but they spend less time on the computer, like looking for something to copy or trace because they're coming from their own ideas because when I would teach them just the basics before, they would pull an image from Google, trace it with the pen tool or the pencil tool. And I was like, there's no real thought to that. Yeah.
yeah. Back in the days, what we do? We scan it, we
Scan it.
rub down, trace it, we color the back of the paper with charcoal, and then like
Right.
trace it. Like that needs
We
to be
Yep.
br- back. Like tape, use tape.
Yeah. We had scanners by each of our computers in college. I remember that. We had scanners and it was just like whatever you get, pictures, books. This is before iPhone even had really good cameras. You would had like a digital photo or a DSLR and take it, bring it, upload it on your computer. Like you were doing the physical labor of it, which kind of sucked at that point. But now that everything is like AI or you can Google it, you kind of like I'm happy I learned that way because it's like it's more authentic feeling.
Yeah, and it's fun, you know? I
Yes.
have so much get such a release when I get to, like, tear things up and juxtapose 2 magazine covers and put type over it. I have a Letraset case over there that I still use rub downs on, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
Do you ever let the kids see it?
No, because it's kind of now, and it doesn't have that adhesive text to it, but I'll bring a couple of sheets in. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
going back to your point, you and I, obviously set the foundation. It's just a matter of, like, how to keep applying it so that they're not lost in this whole, "I just wanna make something on the computer" stuff. Like, it's just I'm glad, I'm glad.
Yeah. So you often talk about, and I think we talked about it a little bit ago, living in that intersection of culture and community, right? So what does that intersection look like in practice when you're making real life decisions on some of these projects or clients you're working with?
So, culture is such a broad term. So is community, right? So if I were to, like, hyper focus it, it's more about that intersection of whether or not we align, you know? So when it comes to my professional practice, there have been moments where I believe if we don't align, we're not going to work together, whether it's just like ability.
Right.
Usually it's not about budget because there's money involved, but more or less, I have the power to turn away projects if they don't respect my way of doing things, asking questions, getting to know you. If they want to just jump to a quick deliverable, and that to me is a red flag. So that intersection has to be like, we have to align first and foremost before we can actually create. And it works the same way in the community too, because we're such a small community. So you can't really like burn bridges or talk shit about people because it comes full circle. So I'm always trying to make sure we have the same values. And being in San Diego South Bay, a lot of us do have the same values. We all were
Yeah.
raised in the same dynamics of being first gen. Our parents are working 3 jobs just to survive. So a lot of that commonality is already in place. So I don't know if that answered your question. It's kind of a long winded, but that intersection is definitely, I would have to say, an important part of working together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're working with these students who, because I know through your own work and through our conversation, you're preaching impact, right? Like this having a meaningful impact. But we've been there. I've been there. You've been there. So how do you? Many designers fall into this. I want to make something meaningful, but then they find themselves working, cranking out logos and websites. So how do you like personally navigate? How do you help? I would say students personally navigate that tension of like as much as you've preached it, society kinda isn't 100% open for the meaningful impact. So how do you help people or students navigate that tension?
I always need to define what impact means, first of all. Like we had a class before our conversation. It's called a design and critical theory class. And it's a 10-week course. All right. So the project is to design 3 posters based on your personal beliefs, your community, and your own identity. Today we had a photo shoot. All right. So I put them in these scenarios where they're in a chair, there's people looking at them, and they're uncomfortable. And I asked them, okay, how did that make you feel? Impact was discomfort, but they are able to actually produce. So I think to reframe that, I always try to find what the impact is on the student themselves first. Did it impact you in a good way? Did it impact you in a bad way? Okay, let's work around that. And then professionally, yes, we're definitely gonna have to find work that's meaningful and impactful, but that comes on their time, not mine. You know,
Gotcha.
I'm just letting them know now, like, find impact in you first, where I'm finding impact in my work now because I'm a lot older. So there's a different mind shift in the time that they're in versus where I'm at now. So that impact starts definitely with you first. Like, how does it make you feel?
Got it. So how do you think those students take to that? You have them design 3 posters. You said personal, cultural, and what was the other one?
Identity.
Identity. So how did they take to that at first? I feel like some may be gung ho and some may be like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Most of them are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And but by week 4, 5, they start to figure it out because the exercise is more about how are you able to critically think about yourself first before you actually design, ask the questions, explore. And the students I have in this class, they're all international students. So it's interesting to see their lens interpreted through the work that I'm providing here stateside. And it's pretty deep, but ultimately, it's deep conversations, a lot of questioning, and sometimes it gets really to a point where, like, wow, you really starting to understand more about yourself than actual about the work. And I think that's a beautiful moment to have.
Hey. Yeah, I was just that I've tinkered in that area of doing those types of projects, but sometimes you get some that go I think because they lose themselves in what culture is telling them. You know what I mean? I think if you're born here, you have a different skewed view of certain things. And I feel like having international students come in, they're coming in with what their country and their culture has taught them from there. And they're coming in here. So they're kind of just, I would say, observing how we live or how we work as like designers and creatives.
And that's ultimately like the challenge. That's the intersection, right? Like, how do
Mhm,
you how do you transition that to a design piece?
mhm.
and it's through discussion, through questioning and research. But ultimately, the weeks on, now we're talking design. Now we're talking in okay,
Mhm.
what type are you using? What imagery? Like we had our photo shoot today. How you want to communicate that with your hands, with color.
Yeah,
So that's
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 cool.
that's the part. And I'll share with you the project they created. It turned
That's
out
dope.
really nice. And
That's
now it's
dope.
how do you articulate it? How do
Mhm.
you use your words now as a designer? You know what I mean?
Do you yeah, absolutely. Do you find students struggle when it comes to articulating their work?
Oh, 110%, dude, all the time. You
Okay.
see, I mean, like
I'm
and it
not
is
alone. I have to ask.
yeah, it's not easy, to go in a group of 20 people as though they're the stakeholders of a client project, like,
Right.
and talk about your ideas, but that's one exercise I always have students talk about is like, "What don't you like about it? What what could be better?" You know? But yeah, I have a hard time getting to use your word or articulate it. But I do know if you break them up in little groups of 5 or 6, they're more communicative that way versus a group of 20. There's some strategies there.
I like that strategy because I have one called during the critique, it's called like, love, what if. I used to be like, love, hate, but then I was like, okay, you can't hate it. It's
What if it's nicer, right? Like hate is like,
yeah, yeah, it used to be like, love, hate, but now it's like, love, what if? And
yeah,
I took on doing that, breaking them into the smaller groups of either 3 or 4 depending on the class size, usually was about 15. So I like them having more intimacy, and I give, like, a timer. Every person gets 10 they get 10 minutes. So 5 minutes to explain, then a 5 minutes to get feedback from the rest of the people in the group. And I feel like many of my students come back with like, "Oh, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even see that. So and so
right.
said I should look at this. Someone said, what about this color? Oh, you're using this. What about that?" And so I feel like when it's the big one and it's the round table and we're all doing it, I have to be like, "Okay, you next. Go. What do you?
Yeah,
Okay, you next. Go. What do you?" Because then once we break from the small groups and come back to the round table, so I have a question. So and so said something about this, and then they're all like organically talking, and I'm just like, yes,
mm.
like yeah. So I
A
get
lot
it,
of
man.
students are very isolated in their own little personal computer that
Hmm.
they forget, like, the design is really, the interaction with XYZ. They question, "Why did you move it this way?" And
Yeah,
they forget. And again, they just wanna hit the target off the bat without actually at least aim for the direction of the target and see what sticks before producing.
yeah.
I'm glad you
So
have that strategy, though, that's great.
yeah, because so when I'm with those students, I've learned because, of course, we've had it. The old school way of critiques was like, "Why that just doesn't look good,"
Mm,
and they've kind of just left us in those places where we're like, "Okay," but now it, yeah, figure it out. But it's just like I feel like when you give them prompting, it opens them up to being more like, "Okay, what am I trying to see? What am I supposed to see here? What am I trying to do here?" What else am I supposed to get? And I feel like that prime thing of like, love, what if allows to be like is like, actually, I tell them, I said, love is simple. Don't change it. You did it. This is working. I said, like is maybe, maybe. And then I say, what if is like, nah, you're on the right path. Like,
yeah,
that's how I break it down to them. Like, I say it just like that. I'm like, don't change it. The other one is like, maybe, maybe. What if is like, nah, but you're there. We're there.
yeah.
That's not the thing that's working.
And there's sometimes where I just like, "Yo, dude, that's whack, dude." I just straight, "I don't
Yeah.
know where you're going," dude. In my head, I'm like, "Mm, okay,
I've done
okay."
that many a time. Yes,
It's
absolutely.
hard not to, like, express that, but yeah, there's some moments just like, "Yeah, where's the effort here?" That's what I say, "Where's the effort?" Like, you get, "Oh, well, I did it last night." Well, there you go.
There it is.
That you're not thinking
It's
of.
easy too, and sometimes they look at us like, "How did you know?" And it's like, "Y'all forget, we've been doing this a minute." Like, you can tell the student who sat there and labored over it, and
Yeah,
then you can tell the student and I'll just, like, look at it. I'm like, "When did you do this?"
yeah. No,
Yeah, it
I
shows.
evaluate once they walk through that door, I can tell who's gonna put the effort in, and I can tell who's gonna have a career doing what we do, you know? So,
Yeah.
that's the
So
beauty
let's
of having
talk
the experience.
yeah. So let's talk about leadership in this private company that you built for designers. Like as one of the founders of Dynamo Design Group, how has your definition of leadership evolved from when you first started to today?
Man, that's it. A real great question, Justin. I would have to say my definition of leadership evolved because um, I get to lead with others. I always saw the corporate world as someone in a director and leadership role as like, they're the one we got to listen to. They're the one we got to follow.
Right.
Whereas now, being in this position of leadership, I get to lead with others and I get to mentor them to lead on their own. Does it make sense?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it goes back to this whole communal like idea of, I guess, family,
Hmm.
in some context, like I want them to work with me. I don't like being here alone, dude. Like I like you know what I mean? I like working with other creatives that have that mindset of Alan's the leader, but he's letting me lead as well. And I think that's ultimately how I was raised. I try to influence that into my work. I try to influence that with my students. And it's just my only way of doing great work is with other leaders.
Yeah. So, has there been a hard lesson you learned while building this design company,
Hard lesson, hard lesson.
or the hardest lesson you had to learn?
I honestly feel like there's a lot of hard lessons that I've learned the last just 5 years. We're entering our fifth year, and some of the hard lessons are just being able to, I'm not able to do everything all at once. I'm designing, I'm writing invoices, I'm chasing checks, I'm trying to find clients. It's really a thin line of whether or not you want to do it or you want to give up. One of the lessons is just not to give up. Put my heart and soul to it. I'm aiming for the target. If it sticks, it sticks. If I hit the dead smack in the middle, then I'm good. But for the most part, though, the hardest lesson is just trying to like be in the moment, embrace it, trust the process that's gonna somehow work. But ultimately, that driving north star is just my students,
Yeah.
getting them in a position to surpass us, Justin. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
want to be surpassed. I want to be
Yeah.
surpassed from really dope talent designers out there.
You know what? I'm glad you said that. I had this conversation with my college kids. It was so interesting because I was like, I want you guys to get this. I was like, I'm better than the teacher that taught me. So when you leave here, in order to be better than me, you're going to have to learn some things on your own. And I said, but I'm going to give you one hell of a foundation so you can have a fair crack at it. That's what I told them, and that's it. And I was like, because the world is evolving. I said, I've been here 38 years. You guys have been here 20. But by the time I hit 50, there's going to be something new. And you
Yeah.
guys are going to be in your 30s getting a crack at it. And I was like, so as long as you have the foundation, everything else is going to come extremely easier to you guys. So I was like, so just get the foundation. Don't worry about all the other stuff and the hoopla and all this. Just get the foundation. Because if you get that, I said, I got the foundation from my professor. I'm doing better than that professor. Now I'm in this space now. I'm doing better than the people behind me. So now I want you to do better than me.
Yeah.
That's where I like it.
I love it, and you seem you keep it real with your students too.
100%. They know that. They know that. I told them, I said, I'm not better than you because I'm a professor. I was like, I had the same struggles. I'm more sensitive to it now because I was like, I used to have critiques where they would walk around and with a red pen and just cross your poster off. Look, this is no. What is that? Like this, look at this. This is about a quarter of an inch off. And I'm like, you're eyeballing my paper. How can you tell that's a quarter of an inch? Like, I was like, you guys don't understand. So it's just like, I'm a little bit more sensitive to it now because it's like, I understand where we are in culture. I understand where we are at this time. So it's just like, I want you guys to be able to, one, withstand likes and dislikes of when it comes to design, but also be confident in your work
Hmm.
because that was something that I feel I didn't get until a little bit later. So that's where it's like I give them that confidence. It's like where I question them and I'm like, hey, why'd you do that? And they'll be like, well, and I was like, you see what you just did? You just let me win. What you need to do is say, I did this because this fits with this style. This is what I'm going for. This is the theme. And based off of my research and my mood board, this is where this is pulling in from. I said, when you can confidently speak about it, guess what? It shuts people up. No one's going to challenge you. I said, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have another designer questioning your work. It's going to be another civilian, as I say, as a designer. Like they're coming to you because they need help. So that's where I kind of have to help them learn that along this road.
What class do you teach?
It's designed for digital media and graphic design for digital media, and then a design for print media.
And it's all on site.
Yeah, two, but it's two separate classes. So one is Monday, the other one is Wednesday.
And how long you been doing that now? Teaching?
This is year 4, but I've been doing this for 4 years, but I also teach high school. So I'm going into my 15th year of teaching the graphic design for high school.
Dude, honestly, it's hard to like for me to sometimes wonder why we're able to connect on the level of a student. Being older and way older, for me at least, I always wonder. And sometimes I'll go on and rate my professors to see what they say. They're like, he's the chillest teacher. I'm like, yeah, that's great. But he's tough, you know?
Yeah.
But I always wonder, just thinking as I work with students, like, what is it that gravitates us to them or them to us? And I honestly think it's just the idea of like culture, man. You know, we're not by the book. We're not by like, well, we are by the book in some context, but like we're really talking from just experiences and the lenses I've seen the last 48 years, seeing my dad work with the community, seeing how my peers talk to me that didn't make me
Hmm.
feel good. Okay, I'm not gonna talk to you like that. I'm gonna make you feel better. So there's a lot of things just from experience and the idea of culture in the room that I think is the foundation of like the core of the class. The
Yeah.
culture is not like I'm in a whiteboard X, Y, Z. I'm really having
Right.
conversations, and then we get a design. You know, so I don't know. I'm just learning that as I continue down this path.
And there's nothing wrong with it. Like the one
No,
thing I'm always curious about talking to other professors and design professors is like, we grew up in the traditional way, right? Of design education. So what do you think they're getting wrong? What do you think they're still getting wrong? Like, what do you think traditional design education gets wrong that could or should be changed?
could or should be changed. I don't. Is it wrong? Doesn't it's like? Are we getting anything wrong? What do you mean?
Well, what about when it comes to creating the real opportunities for students? You know what
Okay.
I mean? Like in that sense, because it's just like we bring the realness into the classroom, but then like are the educators falling short or is it the system falling short? That's kind of where my head kind of stays sometimes.
I don't know how to think about that one, but I would have to say it depends on the educator, I would have to say. I'm really trying to just keep things real and prepare them for what's to come. Like, I can't predict that. I can only give them the tools. And even if it's, like I don't teach a lot of software, but I do show them the commands and the shortcuts. I tell them I can still throw down on Illustrator 4, like I say, like, don't get too hyped up on just one click of a button. Still use your visual experience of like seeing space. Don't just like click on it like populates. Like understand, like don't let the computer, you know, take that away from you. But I don't know. Maybe what's the system? Is the system AI? What's the system? What's the system?
I don't know. To me, I see the system differently as in job opportunities, maybe. Maybe they're spending all this money to get this degree.
Yeah.
Why
Right.
aren't they set up once they get out? That's kind of where I have these kind of maybe too deep level conversations about like is traditional education getting
Yeah.
it wrong? Should there be more hands-on? Should there be more, I don't know.
Well,
It's just little things I think about.
I do tell them like prepare yourself for entrepreneurship. You freelance, you're a bartender at the same time, and you do Uber Eats. Like, get in the habit of like you might have to do that, my friend. These design agencies are small. They definitely don't have the funds. Maybe they outsource a lot. So there's a lot of firms that are small, but finding a job might it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. So I encourage entrepreneurship. Take an in-house job off the bat. It may not be your dream job, but like shoot, take it. So at
Yeah.
least there's options, but
Yeah.
definitely be prepared for the least amount of options.
Yeah. So, what mindset do you think young designers today need that our generation and previous generations we didn't have to lean on so much?
Hmm. I think young designers just need to know the fact that there's a point that your education is going to stop, right? You're going to have your degree. You're going to think you have the dopest portfolio, but ultimately it's just how you apply yourself, my friend. Like every one of your peers in here, you're going to be competing against that one job. And whether you want it or not, you got to be different.
Right.
You got to fight because, yeah, there's a chance you're going to probably be overlooked. So that's why it goes back to like, what impact do you feel, are you able to bring to a company
Yeah.
or firm? Like.
Yeah. So let's touch on a little bit of the future of design. Like design is increasingly connected to systems, technology, storytelling. Where do you think the next generation of designers will create the most meaningful change?
Man, these some tough ass questions, Justin. What are
Look,
the most
man, I just these are questions I
the
kind of
next
talk with other people with, but then when I can have a fellow designer who's dope, I just want to let, hey, where's your head at with this?
the next generation that be like the kids we're working with now, or
Yeah.
our like
The ones we're working with now. The ones we're working with now.
you know I, these kids we work with, Justin, they're smart. They're smart. I think they understand technology way better than we do. I think they understand the click of a button can get something done. It's whether or not, they can sustain it. And I think that's where you and I relate. We can sustain the rash harshness of the real world. I think they just see everything from their phone, thinking that's the real world. But take that away, go on an actual interview, um, and interact there. Let's see. Let's see how you can win that job just by no phone, no computer, and just straight conversation.
Mm.
I think that's something I think this next generation doesn't really understand the importance of using your words.
Right. Right.
It's tough.
So so here's another tough one for you.
Yeah,
All right. With
yeah.
AI and automation entering and kind of almost wiping out creative industries, what do you think will become more valuable about human design?
Become more valuable than the human
Yeah.
design. How can I reframe that for me?
So, you know how literally they have, like, even on Chat GPT now, they have a logo chat, and it's just like everything can be automated. So, what will become more valuable about human design? Meaning, is it going to be, are we going to go back to I don't want to say archaic, but like the hand paint design, like hand painted sign designs? Are we going to go back to the WordPress where we have to manually put the blocks into it? Are people going to yearn for that more handcrafted textileness of like book covers, or going
Yeah.
back to, instead of laser printing posters, actually physically screen printing posters? That's where I'm coming in with that kind of thought or question.
I think it's just a matter of time. No, I
Mhm.
think I'm starting to see a lot of my students using the Rizzo printer. Rizzo,
Yeah.
they're doing a lot more silk screen because they're understanding, like, they're touching, they're smelling, they're feeling.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just think it's going to be a matter of time, dude. I think everything repeats itself, and a lot of that, obviously, aesthetically, isn't that pleasing when you generate it through AI. It's like shit. It's like text, the logo, have it populate. Whoever
Right.
purchases that as a consumer, by all means, go ahead, take it. Like, but if you really want an experience of working with someone who's skilled and professional as a designer,
Mhm.
that can get you up to speed and refresh your brand in a more sustainable way next year
Yeah.
and the year beyond that, then let's talk. But if you want
Yeah.
something generated AI, go for it because it's disposable to me.
Got it. All
Yeah.
right. So this is a nice little easy round. You get to take a deep breath. No more
Give
heavy
give it a
hitters right
shot.
now. But I
No,
mean,
I'm
it's
kidding.
5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock right now, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So it's all good. But I'd like to throw in this quick fire round. So
Mm.
one word answers for with a quick response. So a design principle you think is underrated.
Design principle I think is underrated is kerning. A lot of kids don't. Yeah. They don't see the space between letters a lot. I mean, that's just coming from a graphic designer that loves type. They just automatically think it's set, but nope. There's a lot of imperfections in every font choice you select. So be keen on that. Is that a good one?
Okay.
Kerning?
That's
I
yep.
love I love I can kern the hell out of letters and I need to do it still. It's find joy out of it, but it's definitely
Okay.
underrated.
Let's see. A project that changed how you saw design.
Basketball court mural we did 3 years ago. I that was my first, like, immediate, eye opener of how design can impact a community, but also impact, high school kids' vision of what art can be.
One
Yeah.
book every designer should read.
Oh, where was it? I had it up here. Can I get it real quick?
Go for it.
Real quick. You'll like this one. This is one of them.
I got that one.
Read
I
that.
have that.
D.
Where's
Miller.
mine?
That's
Yes.
yeah. quick plug for my friend Cheryl D. Miller, who is,
Yeah.
I think, a quarter Filipino.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. So I'm reading this, and it's as an adult and as a parent and as a designer, it's definitely helped me see why I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. A habit that makes you a better creative.
I always open my files left to right. I use my columns. Like I'm always copying and I never drag and drop.
Mhm.
But they always say I go through the front door. Like I always make sure, and I always like if I get it wrong, I'll start over. Does that make sense? Like I'm
Yeah, yeah,
always
yeah.
doing like it's the first time. So it's just a bad habit. I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to like when I design. So I'm constantly doing it over until I get it perfect. Is that a good
Yeah.
answer?
Yep, that
All
works.
right.
Last
All right.
one. Your favorite tool in your creative process.
My favorite tool is my Sharpie.
Really?
I always have a
You
Sharpie in my back pocket.
is it
Well,
to just mark up their work and say you hate it or what?
well, it stems from when I used to be like a wannabe tagger, you
Uh-huh.
know? I used to like write my name on walls back in elementary just to show like, "Oh, I'm here." But,
Yeah.
I always have a Sharpie in my back pocket as like, my security blanket. If I have an idea, if I wanna write something up, or if I wanna sign something, but Sharpie is always my design tool of choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, these next few, I just kind of want to give you like space to reflect. This is a reflection on you and your time. So, when you think back to the earliest version of yourself as a creative, what moment first made you feel like this path might actually possibly fit for you?
It would be when I finished grad school in 2004. I was confident enough to have a really strong portfolio. I had interned at a few agencies in the Bay Area, and I just was well equipped with the knowledge and experience and the mentorship from other designers at the time to be like, okay, I can do this. It's just now, how do I believe in myself that I can do it? Well, that took time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what responsibility do creatives have in shaping today in design?
Responsibilities that I feel creatives have in shaping design is, I think it's an obligation as creatives to question the things we see and
Mm,
how can we either make it better or fix it. I think that's our role and spark new ideas and what if, right? Justin, what if
yeah.
we did it
Yeah.
this way? Like, just give us a space to like explore and create because I think that's our obligation as designers is like just question the thing that's in front of you before we actually pursue it because there might be other opportunities to one do it better, save money, save costs, and save time. So let us own that space first.
Yes. Okay. Was there ever a moment in your career where you seriously questioned whether you should even be doing this anymore? And I laugh about that because I've had those moments. So I always am curious to see where other designers feel or where their thought is with that. And what helped you stay? What was your like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be doing this.
Yeah, I would have to say, I don't get as much anymore of like self doubt, but I would have to say it was really intense about when I started Dynamo Design Group. Like, I just didn't know whether or not to go in house or apply to agencies, or I just didn't know. Maybe I thought a career change, but yeah, I just didn't. I still get like that sometimes. I still doubt myself, but yeah, I've kind of said fuck it. Like
1000%.
100%. And now, being older and having a teenager and having a young kid, and both my wife and our careers are good, right? Now it's more or less like, okay, I'm here, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm able to provide for my kids. On paper, it's not the same as it was in house or at an agency because I'm constantly investing back into my own brand. But I get time to go to my son's award show, in the morning. I
Yeah.
get time to take my daughter to dance. So that investment is reframed in that context. And the wealth I'm getting is more, I feel happier,
Yeah.
I'm not as like wanting to like do
Your
anything.
cup is full. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. My cup is full. And I think that's the shift is like the wealth comes from my time with my family.
Yeah. Okay. If a young creative is listening right now and feels stuck or unsure about their path, what would you want them to understand about the long game in design?
I want young designers that are starting their path to understand that one is that there's a group There's a group of us. You're not the only one. We all know what it's like to love your art. We all know what it's like to get your art ripped apart, and we all know what it's like to try to make money. But I would tell young designers to keep continually to grow and find their community, their tribe, and work with them because they ultimately understand. At the end of the day, there's people like you, Justin, that are doing it and showing them and planting those seeds that one day they're going to be, um, you know,
Bigger,
educating.
better. Yeah.
Uh, I think it's time too because I'm impatient, and I remember being at their. I remember
Yeah.
being there, right? Just trying to start a job and stay with it, and like
Yeah.
now here we are reflecting. So a lot of it is just in time. Give it time, let it mature, and ask a lot of questions while you can.
So, my final one for you is this: when your creative journey is all said and done, what do you hope people say about you?
When my creative journey is all said and done, which I hope is not going to be anytime soon,
No, 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 no.
I would have to say I would want people to say he knows what's up. He knows what's up. Like he knows what's up, and he's able to work within different um, areas. I'm able to adapt. I'm able to get shit done. But ultimately, he's one of the coolest, most like he knows what's up. Like talk to that. He knows what's up.
Well, Alan, this has been a great conversation, man. Where can
Yeah,
the
man.
people find you? Where can the people find you? Where can people check out your work?
Check me out. Follow us on Instagram at Dynamo Design Group. Our website is dynamodesignGroup.com. I'm here in San Diego, probably another 200 miles south of my boy Justin, National City. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect. I'd love to meet other creatives and see how we can build together. Let's do it. Love it.
Yes. Well, thank you, you guys, for watching our show. My name is Justin Robinson. I had the talented, the thought provoker, the tells it like it is, my man, Alan. And this is the Art School Graduate Podcast. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.